Hey everyone, I finished another chapter of my John Maxwell for this book that I'm reading. And today's chapter was on train leaders to transformational leaders. So with a lot of the things that I have done, the idea behind it is to replicate what we are doing, to replicate any system that we have in place so that none of us becomes irreplaceable. And if somebody steps away from something, somebody else can step in and do that. And that's how we build continuity. That's how we build our organizations. And that frees you up to go and try new things and to learn new things. So for today's chapter, John Maxwell is focusing on the impact shift. And he gives a nice saying at the beginning of it. If your actions inspire people to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, then you are a transformational leader. So we can all be trained, we can all be liked, we can all influence for today. We can ask people to follow us. We can love to lead. We can help people and have a career, and we can still not have an impact. But if we are transformational leaders, we do have an impact because others see what we're doing and then they are inspired to do that or to do something like that. And that's how we make a difference. You'll find that this is common in the church. Like often people will do transformation trips or ministry trips or retreats, where we pay to go on a trip. We pay for our own food, our transportation. We pay for things to go and train others and help others. And that's something that's done in the John Maxwell team as well. So we go out and we help others, whether it's in schools or in churches or other places. Sometimes we get invited to speak, like at town halls for our MPs. Sometimes we get invited to speak at schools. And for my own experience, what I can speak to is the work I did for the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund, because people knew that I came here from Africa. They knew that I went to university in South Africa. And people watch my social media posts. They watch my posts on Facebook, on LinkedIn. And so the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund Canada at that time had invited me to come and to help to talk about apartheid and racism and what the impact was at that time and Nelson Mandela's life. And so through that, it was carried forward to other people. So they did away with that organization here. It became the Stephen Lewis Foundation, which was sad for us, but it still operates in South Africa. So this is what he means when he talks about transformational leaders. And when we organize small groups, when we organize roundtables, people take it in turn to facilitate. And he gives a powerful example in this book of John F. Kennedy's speech that everyone can change the world. And we might not change the whole world. We might not be like John F. Kennedy or Nelson Mandela, but we can have a small impact where we are in our own communities. And even in simple things, like taking a can of food for the homeless to the church, or offering to give an hour of your time to volunteering. That's also making an impact in our communities. The world can't be different if we have indifferent people. If people don't care, nothing is going to change in our world. And if you look at right now, our Pope is calling for peace and is calling for an end to indifference, because war is big money. And all the money that we give for war that's invested into military action, yes, we do need safe countries, but the impact of that is what's happening in our economy in Canada. There's growing food banks, there's growing unemployment, people are saying, why are you sending so much money overseas and you're not looking after people at home? So some of us are using our voices by contacting our politicians. Others of us are making videos like this and posting them and retweeting for our church and what the church is calling for. And we focus on our own transformation before we can help others. So if I haven't done something, if I haven't taken advantage of the healthcare systems that are in place, or the employment insurance supports that are in place, and I don't know how to job search, I don't know how to strategize, I don't know how to make people feel welcome, I can't model that for others. And many of the people that I've brought into the community, they're now helping in the church. They're taking on sewing for Father Larry, or they are taking on leading the children's liturgy. But somebody had to invite me first, and that person was Father Larry. So when I joined the parish in 2007, he invited me. He invited me to come and volunteer and to help. I didn't ask him in say, can I come volunteer? He came and he asked me, like, we have a need in our parish and would you be willing to help with this? So from there, I accepted it, and I take on what he wants me to do. So at that time, he had asked me to help with the children's liturgy. Then I helped with the Eucharistic ministry. And then I helped with reading. And I help with the rosary sometimes. But the invitation has to come from him, because he's the pastor. He's the one running the parish. So that's how I do it. And even when I went to the Newman Center, at that time, Father Peter Taroni was there. So I used to just go for Mass because I like to walk. I like to go to the university. So I used to go to the Mass there sometimes. And then whoever was helping to arrange the altar and all of that, they would come to me and invite me to come up and read. And so all of us are invited in. Once we're invited in, we model it, and then other people get the same invitation, and then they take it up. And with some of these things, there is a lot of work involved. So even with, if you look at the One campaign, people think, oh yeah, they're getting all these opportunities. They're representing Bono. They're representing Bill Gates. They're representing the MPs. But they don't know on the back end the amount of work we have to do. We have to research. We have to write letters to the editor of our newspapers. We have to email our MPs. We have to follow up. We have to set up meetings with the MPs to talk about why we want aid to go to certain countries and what is the benefit to Canada. Because it's not just to benefit whichever country is getting the aid. It has to benefit Canada. If it's not benefiting Canada, why would we send that funding overseas? And some of the time it's that you're preventing treatable diseases, because if everybody lands up getting sick, eventually that lands up affecting Canada. So there's a lot of work that we put in as volunteers. There's a lot of administration work that we have to do. There's a lot of reporting work that we have to do. And if it's a good organization, like one used to be, then what happens is when you send that email, they automatically get a copy. When you send that tweet, they set it up for you already. So you'll get a message on your X, they call it X now, saying, please tweet this out to Prime Minister Carney or whoever. And you just send it out. Or even if you send your own, sometimes they ask you to create it, they track it. You don't have to take screenshots and send it to them and track it and how many actions did you take this month. So that's changing now. They're pushing all the work onto the volunteers. And that's part of the reason I'm pulling back, because it's like, you know what, I've done this for 7 years, now you're giving me even more work to do. Tell Bono to do it. So, no, I'm kidding. No, but really and truly, that's part of the reason. Because it's like, I'm giving you my time. I'm giving you my resources. I'm giving you my knowledge. I'm giving you all my experience of having been brought up in Africa in a poor family. And on top of that, you want me to do all this work, and then you guys are getting all the opportunities with Bono? Oh, no, thank you. So we have to be the people that create the environment that promotes positive change. We have to be willing to participate in the groups and teach the good values and to reproduce other leaders and to do it in our own communities. There are some groups where, like, we have calls where we meet with people who are in Australia and Europe and different places, but that is very hard because of the time differences, and not everybody can join those calls because most of us are working. So we have things like that, but we always try to do it at the local level where we are. And there's an example he gives in here about how the prison guards had implemented this kind of a system where they used to invite one of the prisoners to do the round tables with them, and then to take it back and to do it with the inmates, and how that brought about change in the prison environment and helped to build good values. So what we are doing in our communities, in our churches, in our non-profits, in our corporations, they taking and they implementing in the prisons, because when people leave, they want them to go out and live productive lives. And he talks about it here, how in the prison environment, and Boris Becker said this too on his interview, that in the prison you can get anything. They even have open doors where they can get people coming in, giving them whatever they want. It's not like people think it is, and it's awful. And he gives an example in here about a prisoner who had his head cut off and they were kicking it like a football. So that's awful. It's really awful if you believe in the sacredness of human life. But he gave that example to show how it's possible to change things and to transform things. And for those of us who grew up in poor families, that's how change came about, because the families would get together and then they would do things together, whether it was a picnic or going to an event or organizing trips. We would do things together. And then as things came up, people started doing it individually for their own families. But poverty builds necessity as well. So those are the points I wanted to touch on for today's chapter. And I asked the faith-driven entrepreneurs if they can give me a break, because my mother has not been well. For the last 2 weeks, she's had the flu. And it really gets me down, because she messages me to tell me how she's doing and what's happening. So I asked them if I can take a break, because right now I'm unemployed and I don't feel it's the right time for me to lead a group. I do have people. I have 5 people that registered, which is good. But I think right now I want to be in a good space, because obviously there's a lot of pressure on me, tremendous pressure, without an income, with my mother being ill, with, different things going on. And my own body is taking time to adjust. And I'm sure once I'm working, I'll be a lot better. But when you're under this much pressure, even the littlest thing can irritate you. And if you're going to facilitate for others and lead others, you have to be in a good space. So maybe once I have a job and I'm working and I have an income coming in, then I can go back to them. Because there's a lot of, when you facilitate, there's a lot of administration work you have to do. You have to do the roll call, you have to take notes, you have to see, okay, what are the things that went well, what are the things that didn't go well, what do I need to do differently next time. You have to send out your link, whether you're using Zoom or Teams or whatever it is. You have to make sure you're prepared, make sure you're set up. So all of those things take time. And they take money. I'm paying for that anyway, for the internet, so that's not the big deal. but it's being available to people. It's being able to handle that burden of life. We call it the burden of life because there are burdens in life. Yes, life is good and we appreciate all the miracles of life and everything that's good in life, but there is a burden of life. And so I'm taking steps to do what I can to support what our Pope wants, our new Pope, which is peace. And I'm taking steps for my own health and to help others, to empower others. But I'm also pushing back where I don't agree with things. And that's also come through being trained in how to do it and being trained in this community, because we all have competing priorities and we all have competing values. And it's an abundant world, but yet there's still people going hungry. There's people without jobs. There's people without access to good paying jobs. And in Canada, they want to bring in more educated people, but the people who are here, like me, we don't have any work. So we're pushing back with our MPs. And today I had a nice surprise. I got an email from Melissa Lansman to thank me for my volunteer work with the Conservatives. And I had two other emails. I had one from her and one from Michelle Cooper to thank me for my efforts with the volunteering and social media and the work I do for them as a volunteer, because they met their fundraising goals. So that was nice for me. It was nice to receive those positive messages, because that's encouragement and everybody needs encouragement. So I'll leave you with that. So this is the book, and you can take it and see how you can apply it to your own group or your own company. But these are the things that we do when we go out and when we speak as Maxwell Leadership speakers and when we facilitate. And I also facilitated here for the internationally educated professionals and helping them to integrate to Canada, because it's a big adjustment for people coming in. It's big. Culturally, it's a big shift.